Welcome to Arts in the City. I'm Tony Guida at the Museum of the City of New York. There are countless ways to tell the history of our city, and some even to predict its future. But none more entertaining than the exhibit our Mike Gilliam saw inside.
The exhibit is called New York at its Core, and it covers New York City history for 400 years, from 1609 all the way to the future. Sarah Henry is chief curator.
The very first time this city has ever had an exhibition about itself.
This first area is called Port City, and unlike an average museum, this is a little bit more than what you would see. You've done a lot of media here, correct?
That's right. Well, we need to tell a very big story in this gallery. We go from 1609 to 1898, 3 centuries. And we go into a lot of detail with beautiful original objects from history, but we also want to give people the big picture. So this map enables you to get the story of New York, in this case, the history of its economy, in 5 minutes. It's literally the bird's eye view.
This room is very impressive. It's also interactive, right?
It is. We want our visitors to be able to meet New Yorkers of the past. Here's Petrus Stuyvesant. He was Director General of the New Netherlands when New Amsterdam was the name of New York. You get to swipe through his story, hear his story in his own words. There you go.
Oh, very
and
cool.
Learn the story of New York when he was living here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like it.
What do you think that is?
That looks
It's
like
like a wall,
West
right?
Side Highway.
A wall.
Huh?
A wall
Yeah.
on Wall Street.
And this is farmland?
That's farmland. So this is the wall that protected the settlement of New Amsterdam from the English. That's where Wall Street gets its name.
Interesting. On to the second area called World City, 1898 to 2012. Now bear with us. The rooms are dark so that visitors can better see the screens.
Here we are, it's the 20th century. And we want to plunge our visitors right into the heart of that modern New York. Think about how New York changed from 1898 to 2012. It's this incredible saga. This is why the story of New York is such a great story.
I love the interactive stuff.
You do?
Let's go check out some more of that.
Yeah.
This looks fascinating to me. Who are all of these people? Are these New Yorkers?
This is an incredible moving sidewalk of the most unlikely group of people, but that's what New York's all about, right?
Right.
And as you approach the screen, their names reveal themselves to you.
I just saw like David Rockefeller walk past.
Here comes Jane Jacobs, Elsie Richardson from Bed-Stuy. There's Patti Smith.
Wow.
So as I say, Gloria Steinem, she came here to see her interactive. Felix Rohatyn, Highline.
I want to hit this one right
Let's hear this
here.
guy here, you do it. Jay-Z, tap to start. And as you go through the story, you're going to meet other people in the history of hip-hop.
This is the big area here. This is the future of New York City, right?
Welcome to the Future City Lab.
Uh-huh.
It's the biggest gallery in New York at its core. And our architect, Studio Joseph, made this wonderful, airy, hopeful space. The future is open. And what this gallery invites you to do is consider where are we now and where are we going?
Okay, now this is the area where you would actually design a building.
Design your own building. You pick a neighborhood, an actual vacant lot. Let's pick East Harlem. And you get introduced to the neighborhood and to the location. And you can just dive in and start building. You can pick your materials. And you can decide how tall your building's going to be. It's going to come to life.
That's amazing.
And you're going to get to be in it.
Okay.
Me too. Let's go
take
over
a
and
look.
see it. Yeah. There we are. There are the New Yorkers of the future walking by, and guess what? We're there in the future.
That's very
And I got to
cool.
tell you, people love this. We want to put New Yorkers and everybody who loves the city in the driver's seat to think about what New York is going to become.
Okay, Sarah Henry, thank you very much.
Thanks so much for coming. I hope you come back.
I got to tell you, it's a great exhibit. You have to come and see it. It will be here permanently at the Museum of the City of New York. I'm Mike Gilliam for Arts in the City.
Our city is a symphony of sounds, both bone-jarring and melodious. But there is one man in the city who believes there aren't enough sounds, so he's inventing new ones out of stuff you wouldn't believe. Tinabeth Piña has more.
What I usually say is that I'm a sculptor working with sound and with robotics, just because that's the easiest way to throw sort of a big umbrella over all of it. Mostly I come up with ideas that I'm excited about and then I build them.
Andy Cavatorta has always been passionate about music and building robots. He quickly realized that what he enjoyed most about building robots were the sounds they made.
So at the very beginning of me getting to do this full time was a very fortuitous thing, commissioned from Bjork to collaborate with her for about a year developing different types of instruments that harness different forces of nature to make music. After making probably a dozen different types of ideas and prototypes, we ended up with ideas of pendulums and a big pendulum-based instrument, and that became the gravity harps. I got to go out on the tour for the first year of that, which was super fun, but was also made me incredibly nervous every single show. I would rather have been on stage singing, and I don't even sing. Like, that was a machine that could never ever fail, and it was hard to ever feel like you had 100% control over everything that was happening.
Another project Andy was asked to create sound for was the Stella Artois Chalice Symphony.
The project for Stella Artois was very interesting. They came to me and they asked me to invent and design 4 instruments, a quartet of instruments using their sort of iconic chalice, their Stella glass that you're used to seeing. And I agreed to it before I even got to listen to the glasses, but I got very lucky. It turns out they sound great, actually. They make really nice glass bells. One of these instruments was a pyrophone. In this instrument, there were flames inside large glass tubes, and you played it with a keyboard, and you would open and close these clusters of flames, and they would vibrate like the reed of a saxophone, so that the flame itself really was what was making the music. And it makes a very, very specific type of sound. If people asked what it sounded like, I would say clearly it's impossible for a whale to be fronting for like a death metal band. But if they could, this is what it would sound like.
Andy's inventions require a team of people with many areas of expertise.
At different times over the years, I have different people in the studio working with me, and the projects that get executed are very much a result of their abilities as well as mine. So fundamentally, it's good to know a lot about software. It's good to know, actually, I would say a bunch about math and physics, more than anything. To know about music, and then if you can do math, then you can turn most problems into math, which makes things amazingly, like, it gives you great power over problems that you're trying to solve if you can sort of quantify them. And understanding physics is pretty great because it applies to so many physical things that we're building. There's, physical waves traveling in the air.
The ultimate goal for Andy is to generate emotions with sounds and make meaning of what we hear.
A lot of people come in with music backgrounds, and that's incredibly useful, especially if it runs fairly deeply and they're a composer and they know a whole lot about how we understand sound, how we make meaning out of what we hear. How we make meaning with sound, to me, that's always infinitely interesting because I don't know the answer. It just sort of keeps going and going. I think it's a really fundamental part of we human beings. And if I was going to do some sort of bullshit hypotheses about like us humans and our history and where all this comes from, the fact that we speak is probably a big part of this. And what I'm doing right now is I'm taking that incredibly deeply interconnected web of things and I'm sort of serializing it into a bunch of words and turning those into a bunch of sounds. I have a specialized organ right here that like turns it into a specific, turns those things, and they're going into your ears. You have specialized organs here that are very much about this copying. And I'm copying these things in my head into your head. And we do it all with sound. And I think this is This, more than anything else, is the weird fundamental part thing about like what we are. And this is what creates culture. And this, I think, is why we sing. And because we sing, we create all these other instruments too. Because we listen carefully, not just to the words, but to how people say them, to the inflection. You know when you're listening to somebody if you should trust them or not, for instance. You can tell. And there we get all of these huge human inventions and cultural histories, but I think those are meaningful to us just because of this thing that we do with speech and how fundamental it is for us. That's my hypothesis. I like to make stuff up like that. That sounds reasonable to me.
To hear more sounds from Andy's one-of-a-kind instruments, take a look at his website, andycavatorta.com. For Arts in the City, I'm Tinabeth Piña.
The most famous street in our city is not on any map, and its residents are made out of feathers and fluff and the fabulous imagination of one man. Andrew Falzon has more.
It's the one and only Fozzie Bear.
A cast of characters descended on the Museum of the Moving Image in Astoria to open up its newest permanent exhibit dedicated to the extraordinary creations of Jim Henson. The exhibit features over 300 objects on display, each one connected to the legacy of a man who has helped shape American culture since the 1960s.
This material appeals to people of all ages. And that's partially because people that are adults now have memories of seeing puppets on Sesame Street when they were kids, or seeing the Muppet Show when they were young. And that's part of it, is this sort of nostalgia. But I think that it's bigger than that. It's about the kind of universal appeal of these stories and characters.
Barbara Miller curated the exhibit and says the project was years in the making. Nearly 500 objects had been donated to the museum by the Henson family in 2013, and some of the treasures on display include handwritten notes and archival video of Henson's work. Funding came from a variety of sources, including the City of New York.
The Muppets is a great reason to come and see the show, but hopefully you'll come away kind of with a deeper understanding of creativity and of Jim Henson as a person.
And those who want to see real-life Muppets won't be disappointed. The exhibit includes fan favorites, all of which were actual puppets used in Henson productions. Kermit the Frog greets folks on the way into the exhibit, and Sesame Street's most famous resident is on display, 8 feet tall and yellow. The exhibit also reveals interesting facts about Henson's creations, like Ralph the dog, who was the first Muppet to gain national fame, and the original Oscar the Grouch, who was actually pink instead of green.
I'm just thrilled that we can share this with the public, because I've gotten to see a lot of these puppets up close for years. I've gotten to work with them.
Craig Shemin was a writer for the Jim Henson Company and spent 14 years working with many of the puppets on display. He's now the president of the Jim Henson Legacy, a nonprofit dedicated to keeping the history of Henson alive.
The fact that people are still talking about him and that the work still continues is a testament to the importance of the work and the man.
Not only was Henson a creative innovator, his company was also renowned for advancing the technical side of puppetry. Some of the animatronic controls created by the company are on display, along with the puppets they controlled. And even the most amateur of puppeteers will get a chance to bring their own character to life.
3, 2, 1. Oh, is that thing on? Oh, I tend to get a little camera shy every now and then. Well, in addition to seeing the puppets here at the Henson exhibit at the Museum of the Moving Image, there's also an opportunity to become a puppeteer yourself, making the exhibit a memorable experience for the entire family. I'm Andrew Falzon, and he's Andrew Falzon for Arts in the City. Not bad, buddy. First time out.
What's wonderful about the Big Apple Circus is that they have embraced my love for rescuing animals. I don't look at them first for their potential in show business. I look at them for like, oh, he needs me or she needs me. So then I'll bring them home, and then we'll see. What do you think about this circus business? Do you like to show off? Do you like to, perform? Are you going to work well with the group? As far as going to the rescue site, There's no way I could say, that's not what I need, I'm going to walk away. When I go, I know I'm coming back with something, and hopefully it works out. And if it doesn't, they spend the rest of their life here.
You might have trouble believing Instagram photos and captions are art, but let Donna Hanover introduce you to her newest friend.
Meet Ashley, who is very happy now, but she was in bad shape, neglected, and undernourished when she was brought to the FDNY firefighters of Engine 15 Ladder 18 several months ago. They adopted the young pup, and Captain Gerard Ciani says the love on both sides is clear.
She gives us a lot of emotional support. You know, you come home from work, you have a dog, they jump all over you. We come back from a run, and we had a bad call, someone died, someone lost a lot of property. We come back and she just brings us joy. She jumps all over us, kisses us.
With their own money, the firefighters feed Ashley, and they make sure she gets to the vet. They give her baths, play catch, and they even started an Instagram page for her. As firefighter Farhan Ahmad tried to post new pictures, she told us how much she likes being on Instagram. Her username is @ProbyAsh.
What does that mean, Proby?
Proby is a probationary firefighter, a new firefighter. You know, first year on the job, and the senior guys and the officers look out for the probationary firefighters. So we look out for her and she looks out for us.
So she's ProbyAsh.
ProbyAsh.
Firefighter Michel Victor Noel says the account is a chronicle of Ashley's life in the firehouse.
She brings a lot of joy, excitement, fun. Like, we're always running around, playing around with her. She's like a big goofball and stuff in a way as well. She'll jump on the couch, roll around upside down and everything, stick her head into the couch. Like, I don't know, she does a lot of little quirky things and stuff that just makes us all happy. We try to catch some of those moments just to like show how like much fun she actually does bring to the firehouse.
Ashley doesn't go to fires, but she likes to sit in the trucks and hitch a ride whenever possible. Ashley is well known in the neighborhood.
You got a friend in me.
She's very friendly with the other dogs, and I walk around and people are like, "Hi Ash, hi Ash." I'm like, wow.
And Instagram has made her even more of a celebrity.
I'm amazed. I can't believe she's close to 28,000 followers.
Part of the reason @ProbyAsh is so popular is that the posts are often funny, like must keep squeezing through, must eat eggs, or attempting peace with the firehouse cat, or recently, what am I doing with your sneaker? Nothing. Ashley sometimes sends out public service messages like remember to hydrate and consider adopting a rescue animal. That last one is special considering her story.
If you could adopt a dog, you're saving a life. I mean, we saved her life.
Whenever we take her for a walk and we pretty much pass right by the firehouse, she goes straight for the door like, all right, let me in. So she definitely knows this is her home.
Ashley likes visitors, including our Arts in the City crew, and she even put us on her Instagram page.
So Ashley is in a long tradition of animals that share affection with the firefighters who take care of them. And she brings a social media modern twist to the photo art that helps tell the story. I'm Donna Hanover for Arts in the City.
Wedding dresses from the roaring 20s, coats and corsets from the 19th century. Not Broadway costumes, but the pride of a collection in Queens. Vianora Vinca shows us.
Touching the garments and seeing them with their vibrant colors and how striking some of these garments really are, you really get a feel for the time.
The Queens College Fashion Department houses close to 3,000 garments.
This collection offers students this rare material culture experience. They can come in and experience garments with all their five senses.
In a textbook, you see the beauty of it, but when you really can take this opportunity to look at them and study them so closely, you connect to the garments.
A connection with garments as well as socio-cultural history. Emily Ripley explains.
As Charles Baudelaire said, fashion is both ephemeral and eternal. and functions as poetry and history. And that's why it's incredibly profound to me, but it allows students to open up their experience of fashion design and understand the profundity of it.
That pink dress is one of my favorites, like from the 1950s. It's wonderful.
This is a couture Yves Saint Laurent evening wear dress. This is Oscar de la Renta cocktail dress. This is Molly Stone for Saks Fifth Avenue. This is attributed to Maggie Ruff, so it's late 20s, early 30s. And this is a circa 1917 World War I era day dress.
The extensive shoe collection showcases a number of rare items, many from the 1930s and 40s. Each pair of shoes tells a story.
A particular favorite pair of mine are these from the 1940s. And in the 1940s, during World War II, there were restrictions on leather and silk. Silk for parachute and leather, of course, for belts and boots. And glycerin as well. So these are actually made out of wood, and the uppers are and the ties are made out of rayon, which was the silk substitute at the time.
The collection got started here at Queens College in the 1950s by a professor named Irene Bush. It began with an initial sizable donation from the Brooklyn Museum and then the Met. As the collection continues to grow, preserving and rehousing it is now of high priority for the Queens College staff.
We are working on an HVAC system, which we don't have, and revamping the storage. When I inherited the collection and adopted it, we've been replacing non-archival materials and been working very hard on rehousing. And we're open to any kind of donations, and we need donations. Day after day, I find things that just astonish me, like a very special, streamlined hat from World War I, or this beautiful 1930s sequin gown. And I just love it, and I love the research and the ability to offer it to my students. It's a rare resource.
Items from the collection are sometimes put on display at various Queens College events. With time and additional resources, the staff also aims to make the collection open to public. For Arts in the City, I'm Vianora Vinca.
We leave you this Halloween season in a special house, not officially haunted, but unforgettable nonetheless. Our hidden gem.
This house is truly special because it remains intact with all the possessions, the clothing, the furnishings, the decorative objects of the family who lived here for almost 100 years. They were the Seabury Treadwell family, wealthy merchants, one of the old New York families that made New York City what it became in the 19th century. And when you step in through the front door, you enter their world. When the Treadwells moved here in 1835, this was called the Bond Street area, or above Bleecker, and this was the place to live if you were one of the upper crust. Seabury and his wife Eliza moved in 1835 with 7 children, including a newborn infant, and 5 years later, in 1840, their last child, Gertrude, was born right here in the house. I'm standing in the double parlors of the Merchants House Museum, two very grand spaces, one strictly for company and for special events, and then a rear parlor, which was a grander space where the family could entertain, particularly in the evenings where they would read and gather together as a family unit. In the bedrooms, we see the private worlds of Mr. and Mrs. Treadwell. Their furnishings, their special pieces that they used, the massive beds that they bought specially for this house when they moved in 1835. And this house is distinctive in being the only house in New York City where you can go today and see a servant's bedroom. The servants were Irish girls. There, up under the roof, in those rooms that would have been so cold in the winter and so hot in the summer, the servants had their little world. The Treadwells themselves did not play a major role in history. They didn't sign documents, they didn't start revolutions, but they were typical of a class of merchant people who brought wealth, success, power to New York City and made it the most important city in North America. Many people believe that the Treadwells are still here, and maybe that's true. We at the Merchants House Museum will never call the house haunted until we have actual proof. But many unexplainable things occur here.
I wonder what he means by that. For more information on our stories, go to our website, CUNY.tv, or check out our Facebook page. Until next time, I'm Tony Guida for Arts in the City.